that you're expecting a very angry video about the Project Cars 3 gameplay that we've seen so far, and, well, I'm not gonna lie, this isn't the first time that I've recorded this video. There was actually a very angry video in development about the game, which that was only based off the initial gameplay that we saw, which obviously looked very arcadey, as you shall now see. So obviously, that looks abysmal. The damage model looks appalling. The way that the cars react looks appalling. The user interface isn't great. And of course, they've gotten rid of the original engineer, who, among a very small number of us in the community, is known as Gary. And also, there's constantly music playing in the background. Now, obviously, I was furious after watching that gameplay. I made a very angry video where I said things along the lines of, you know, this looks dreadful, Project Cars has forgotten its sim roots, and it pretty much goes against everything that the original 2 games stood for, because obviously CARS is an acronym which stands for Community Assisted Racing Simulator, and the gameplay that we saw led us to believe that definitely wasn't a sim. However, the reason for that is because the initial gameplay that we saw was with all the assists on, and I think it was set more towards the arcade side of things. The next day after I recorded that footage, somebody sent me gameplay footage, which you'll probably be seeing now on screen, where it was all the assists off from cockpit view and what I assume was just in time trial. And it actually looks really good, and you know, like a sim game should, and how, you know, we actually expected Project Cars 3 to look in the first place. And that did something that I wasn't quite expecting, and it actually changed my mind, which has raised a couple of questions. I do want to briefly talk about the whole pit lane thing before I talk a little bit, you know, about what I think this game is going to be first, because I know that a lot of people are very upset about how in the gameplay footage that we've seen thus far, the pit lane was actually closed and you couldn't enter it in any way. And yeah, that looks really bad, and it especially looked bad in the first bit of gameplay that we saw that sort of led us to believe that pit stop strategies and qualifying sessions weren't going to be a factor in this game, which would have really sucked. I reckon that might be for one of 2 reasons. The first reason might be because it's an early build of the game and it's not the final version of the game that we are going to be seeing when we eventually do buy it, or it might be because of the fact that it was either in a quick race format or it was in time trial. So that might be why the pit lane is closed. I mean, you know what? I'll have a bit of faith in Slightly Mad Studios and Codemasters, and I'm sure there will be an open pit lane there will be an option for an open pit lane come the release of the game. What I do want to talk about, though, is that while I was very angry after I initially saw the gameplay, after seeing that second bit of gameplay, it's raised a few theories. And, you know, Project Cars 3 might develop on what might actually deliver on what they promised, and promise to revolutionize the sim racing genre, because what we saw was 2 very different types of gameplay. One that was very arcadey and one that was very it looked like a simulator. So what that leads me to believe is that Project Cars 3 will be a game where you can very much tailor your own experience in the game. So if you want a full-on sim racing experience like we had in Project Cars 2, or, you know, any other sim game, you'll be able to tailor it that way. But if you want something more along the lines of Grid or Forza Motorsport 7 or whatever game it might be, you can tailor it to that, which will be revolutionary, because usually it's either been black or white. It's either been a sim racing experience or a simcade experience. You can't tailor an individual game to how you want it to play, but it might be that in Project Cars 3, that's how it's it might actually be. Which, I mean, in the Angry video that I had, which I'm not going to post, and also in the trailer analysis, I said that it wasn't bringing anything new to the table. If that is the case, then this certainly will bring something new to the table, as it will probably completely revolutionize what we expect sim racing games to be. I know that sounds overly optimistic, and it's too early to tell, as I said in the trailer video, but it's also maybe too early to write this game off completely, which the fact that I'm making a video like this is very unusual, because there was no way that I thought that something that would have been released after the trailer and after the initial gameplay would have full-heartedly changed my position on how I felt about this game. So there may be hope for the game yet. That's sort of my analysis of the two sets of gameplay that I've seen before. The initial gameplay that we saw I absolutely hated, but then the fact that it's been followed up by the gameplay that we've seen, it has made me a lot more hopeful about the game, and it really might be something quite special. I do have other things I want to talk about today. Obviously, there is the Project Cars website, and that has been updated to include the information that we have so far about Project Cars 3. And there's a couple of different sections which I'd like to go through today. So the first heading that you see under the Project Cars 3 subheading is Your Ultimate Driver Journey. And it says you get to race over 200 elite brands of race and road cars, over 140 global tracks, make each car your own, which of course refers to customization, and sort of a new journey and new game modes. Now, the first thing is race over 200 elite brand race and road cars. That's good. I think that is more than the last game had, which, I mean, it also does say that there are race cars still in the game, so there's hope yet. Over 140 global tracks. That's good, obviously, that there's still race tracks in the game. However, that is roughly the same number that Project Cars 2 had, so that's not really bringing anything new. Make each race car your own. Again, that refers to customization, and new journey and new game modes. I mean, that will probably mean a number of things. Key features, your own journey, race to earn credits and XP to buy and own hundreds of race cars, customize your car's liveries, personalize your drivers, upgrade cars with realistic performance parts. Now, I'm not a big fan of this. The first thing it says is, obviously there's going to be an XP system that you can use to buy cars. Now, I don't really agree with that. I mean, I know that a credits and an XP system has worked in other games like Forza Motorsport 7, but the thing that I liked about the previous two games is that you could basically race on a whim. If you wanted to race a certain car on a certain track at any time, you could, and you didn't need to purchase anything. So, I don't know, maybe they'll find a way for it to work, but it's just not really my sort of personal taste. Customize your car's liveries. Again, I really like how that's coming into this game, because I really feel that livery customization was something that was really missing from the previous two games. It's something that a lot of racing games have, and that was one of the areas that Project Cars 2 was probably lacking. So it's nice to be able to, and I'm assuming that there will be pre-existing liveries that you can choose from, and it's just nice that you'll be able to make custom liveries. Personalize your drivers. I'm assuming that relates to sort of race gear and helmets and race suits and stuff, which which has pretty much already been done in Forza Motorsport 7. So that's pretty nice. That's a nice little addition to the game. And it says you can use credits and XP to upgrade cars and with realistic performance parts. Now, if this is only for the road cars, I'm 100% fine with this. I quite like the idea of being able to tune up a road car and basically turn it into a race car. Although, I wouldn't really like... I'm not a fan of the idea of actually upgrading the race cars, because I'd personally prefer to drive and race against cars that are more or less similar to what an actual racing driver would drive. I'd prefer to just drive racing cars at factory spec, so I'm not a big fan of the idea that you can upgrade them. It's just for the road cars, I don't really see any problem with that, and also because of its realistic performance parts, that means that, you know, you'll probably be upgrading specific suspension components or engine components or whatever it might be, and that means that the upgrades will be, I'm assuming, within the realms of realism. Well, that's obviously better than what it could be, and whether it might just be like a trading card system that it has been in other games, and it's just like increased speed or whatever it might be, which wouldn't necessarily be as good as what we may have in this game. Feel each moment. Fully scalable assist for all skill levels, new tire model for convincing and fun handling, 24-hour cycle, dynamic all seasons, all-weather racing, unrivaled controller experience, visceral sense of speed, and intense crash effects, and authentic car contact. Now, fully scalable assists, that phrase alone really doesn't, you know, it doesn't actually say if there's anything new. I mean, there were fully scalable assists in the last game as well, but if this relates to, you know, tailoring the simulator or arcade racing experience for the individual player, then that would obviously bring something new to the series. New tire model for convincing and fun handling. Now, I didn't necessarily see a problem with the tire model in the last game, but then again, I haven't driven a real racing car, so I don't know if it's realistic or not. And if the handling is more fun than the last game, then I suppose that's a good thing. 24-hour cycle, dynamic all seasons, and all-weather racing. I'm assuming that's just an expansion of the Live Track 3.0 system that we have come to know so far. I mean, it's not really anything new. We had that in the last game, but if it's an overall better experience than it was before, then I suppose that's a good thing. Unrivaled controller experience. Now, the controller gameplay from previous games is something that a lot of people have complained about. I mean, obviously not everybody can afford a wheel, and I personally do have a wheel, so the controller experience really doesn't mean anything to me, but if the controller experience is better than the last game, and it encourages more people to play, and there's still, you know, it's relatively even between wheels and controller players, that's a good thing. That's good that that's been updated. Visceral sense of speed, that doesn't really mean anything. I mean, arguably Project Cars 2 had a visceral sense of speed, and pretty much any other racing game has a visceral sense of speed. But if that's what you got to do to market it, then, you know, that's what you got to do. Intense crash effects and authentic car contact. Now, we haven't really seen any evidence of this so far, because the crashes that we have seen in the game so far, when a car has essentially gone into the back of another car like that, if that makes sense, the rear wing of the other car has just fallen off, which wouldn't necessarily happen in real life. But if that is simply because it's not the final build of the game, that's fine, and if the crash model is improved by the game's release, then that's perfectly fine. Enhanced AI, now that's a good thing, because the AI in the last game wasn't that fun to race with, and I just never did it. And if they're better this time around, then that's fine. 12K and best in-class VR support on PC. Now, the VR in previous games, that's been something that a lot of people have loved about this series, and apparently the VR experience is very, very good. I personally haven't tried it, and I would love to try it someday, so it's good to see that's making its return for Project Cars 3. Earn every win. New and deeply engaging career mode. Now, this isn't really something that concerns me, because I'm more interested in the online experience, but if the career mode is good enough for me to actually stay interested in it, then I will obviously give it a play. Battle your way up from Weekend Warrior to Racing Legend. I mean, arguably that's what you did in the last game, but if they have found some way to expand on that, then that's another bonus. New and compelling multiplayer community modes now. If the multiplayer experience is better from Project Cars 2, that's a bonus as well. And if there's more stuff to do online, then that's good. I personally would like to see the lobby stability issues be solved for Project Cars 3. I feel like that would that should be the primary focus. And if the multiplayer experience is better, then that's a good thing. Fun and exciting daily challenges. This isn't really something that interests me too much, but if there are major benefits from participating in these challenges, then I'm absolutely open to giving them a try. So that's basically everything we know about the Project Cars 3 gameplay experience thus far. Overall thoughts, not a big fan of the XP system, but if they can find a way to nail the sort of tailoring aspect of it, so you can customize your player experience to suit you, whether you want a more arcade style or sim style, I think that'll revolutionize the sim racing world. And it might actually deliver on its promise to change the sim racing world. And it's good to see that there are options to have a more simulator experience, which is a good thing. Also, I hope the pit lane gets opened up before the release of the game, which is a good thing, and I just hope that, you know, the overall experience is good. Again, I think it's too early to judge, but you know what? After seeing this gameplay, I decided to delete the angry video that I made and re-record this to bring a more balanced approach, as I'm more confident about this game after having seen that footage. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I do actually read all the comments, so you may as well say something and I will most likely respond to you as well. All the socials are in the description below, including the TCR Instagram, Twitter, and Discord server, as well as my own personal Twitter, so please go check those links out if you haven't already done so. That's going to do it from me. I'm more confident about Project Cars 3 now, so like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.